Josie Duggar's final battle. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. For Duggar family latest news update, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. Josie Duggar, the youngest of the Duggar family, had always been known as the miracle child born prematurely, weighing barely 1 pound and 8 ounces, fighting for survival from her first breath. She became a symbol of hope and strength within the Duggar household, and among viewers who followed the family's journey on television and social media over the years. Josie grew up into a quiet but incredibly compassionate young woman, someone who would comfort anyone who needed kindness, someone who would choose silence over arguments and healing over hurt. Her life was a soft whisper in a world that often shouted. In the early months of this year, Josie began feeling unusually tired and frequently complained of headaches and weakness. At first, the family assumed it was just exhaustion from her studies and responsibilities. She had recently started helping Michelle Duggar with community health awareness programs, volunteering in hospitals, and organizing events for underprivileged children. Everyone believed she was simply overworking herself, but Michael Duggar, her older sister, sensed something deeper. She noticed Josie losing weight rapidly, even though she was eating properly, and often catching her holding her chest in pain when no one was watching. One evening, while sitting at the dinner table, Jim Bob Duggar looked at Josie as she quietly pushed her food away, his voice gentle. "Josie, are you feeling okay?" She forced a smile, nodded, and said, "Just tired, Dad." But Jim Bob could see the pain in her eyes. After the meal, he walked into her room, her head resting on her knees, arms wrapped around herself like she was afraid to fall apart. Jim Bob sat beside her and whispered, "Sweetheart, talk to me." She trembled, looked at him, and tearfully said, "Dad, something is wrong. I am scared." Jim Bob and Michelle rushed Josie to the hospital that night. The family filled the waiting room in a matter of minutes, phones vibrating with worried messages, cousins streaming in, family members praying in groups. Doctors performed several tests, and hours passed with agonizing silence. The doctor finally came out, his face heavy with news, and said, "Josie has been diagnosed with a rare form of aggressive cancer. The illness seems to have spread faster than expected, and we need to start treatment." Immediately, the entire family fell into stunned silence. Michelle collapsed into Jim Bob's arms, crying uncontrollably. The Duggar children held onto each other. The silence in that hospital corridor felt louder than any storm. Josie spent the next weeks in the hospital undergoing intense treatment, chemotherapy, medication, and repeated tests. She tried to remain strong, comforting her siblings every time they visited, saying, "I am okay. I am fighting, do not worry." But alone in her room, she often cried, quietly staring at the sunrise through the window, wishing she could spend one more morning in the family garden with her siblings, laughing, and carefree. Days turned into nights, machines repeatedly beeping, nurses moving in and out, doctors discussing reports in low voices. The Duggar family took turns staying beside her. No one left her alone, ever, even for a moment. One morning, Michelle walked into Josie's room carrying a small bunch of daisies, Josie's favorite flowers. Josie smiled weakly as Michelle placed them in a vase beside her bed. Michelle held her hand and whispered, "I will not let go." Josie looked at her mother, then at the flowers, and said, "Mom, I am not afraid of dying. I am afraid of leaving you behind." Michelle broke down, tears flowing as Josie spoke softly, "You have been my miracle since the day I was born. But I need you to let me go if my pain becomes bigger than my strength. Promise me you will stay strong." Michelle hugged her daughter tightly, her voice shaking. "I promise, but I will fight with you until your last breath." As weeks passed, Josie's condition deteriorated rapidly. She lost most of her hair, her voice became softer, body weaker, yet her spirit remained unwavering. One night, the family gathered around her bed, the room dimly lit by soft yellow lights. Jim Bob holding Josie's hand, Michelle sitting beside her, crying silently, Jana reading Bible verses softly, Jinger softly humming Josie's favorite lullaby, the same one Michelle used to sing when she was a preterm baby struggling to breathe. Josh gently reading messages from fans and well-wishers saying how Josie inspired them. Through her courage, Josie listened, eyes closed, tears rolling down her cheeks. She whispered, "I never thought my story would matter to anyone." 2 days later, Josie went into critical condition. She was transferred to the ICU, machines breathing for her heart rate fluctuating, alarms occasionally ringing. The family remained outside, praying, holding hands, hoping desperately for a miracle. But the doctors gave them a quiet warning, saying, "Josie is fighting, but her body is too weak. You must prepare yourselves." Michelle requested to be allowed inside to hold her daughter during her final hours. The hospital approved. Jim Bob entered with her holding Josie's hand gently, without disturbing any of the attached tubes. The family filled every corner of the waiting area. Emotionally drained, Jana had tears streaming continuously. Jessa held her newborn, tightly feeling the weight of seeing someone so young fighting for her life. Joy Anna knelt on the floor praying for strength and healing. Outside the ICU window, the early morning light slowly began to rise, marking the beginning of a day the Duggar family would remember forever. Inside the ICU room, Josie opened her eyes, slightly saw her parents. She smiled, faintly, her voice almost a whisper. "Dad, Mom, thank you for giving me the world," Michelle sobbed. Josie looked out the window and saw the first light of dawn. She said, "I want to see one last sunrise." Jim Bob gently adjusted her bed, facing the window, the sky turning shades of pink, orange, and gold. Josie whispered, "It is beautiful." The room fell into silence, the machine slowing. Michelle kissed Josie's forehead. Jim Bob placed his hand over hers. They both whispered, "We love you so much." Josie looked at them, tears shining in her eyes, her final words barely audible, "I love you more than." Gently, as the sunlight reached her face, Josie took her last breath. The flatline beep echoed through the room. Michelle screamed in heartbreak. Jim Bob held her tightly, unable to stop his tears. Doctors slowly stepped forward, confirmed the time of death. The entire hospital corridor filled with silent mourning. The Duggar family had lost their youngest daughter there. Miracle child. News of Josie's passing spread rapidly across the world, thousands of fans posting tributes remembering her as a symbol of hope and strength. Candlelight vigils arranged in multiple towns. The Duggar family released a statement saying Josie fought with grace, faith, and courage. Her life was short, but her impact was powerful. She taught us hope even in suffering and love even in pain. Though our hearts are shattered, we believe she is now at peace, watching over us from heaven. Her funeral was held 3 days later in the family church, the same place where Josie had often come to pray. She was laid in a white coffin covered with daisies, the same flowers her mother placed beside her hospital bed. The Duggar siblings walked together, eyes filled with tears. Josh spoke first, voice breaking. "Josie was the smallest one in our family, yet her courage was the greatest. She taught me what strength truly is." Jana followed, saying, "Josie was my little sister, but often she felt more like my angel. She always asked me, 'Are you okay?' even when she was struggling herself." Jinger sang Josie's favorite hymn softly, the audience weeping silently. Michelle stood before the crowd, her hands trembling, holding a family photo. She said, "Josie was born fighting for her life, and she left this world the same way, but she was never alone. She was born in love, and she died in love." Jim Bob concluded the ceremony, saying, "I have faith that we will meet our daughter again in heaven. She is not gone. She has simply gone ahead to prepare a place for us." After the funeral, the family planted a tree in their garden in Josie's memory, with a plaque engraved, "Josie Duggar, 2009-2025, forever our miracle, forever our sunrise." Every morning, Michelle would sit near that tree watching the sunrise, believing Josie was there with her each time the first light touched the leaves. In the months that followed, the Duggar family established a foundation in Josie's name to support cancer awareness, especially for young individuals. They started hospital support visits inspired by Josie's compassion. They funded treatment programs for underprivileged children battling life-threatening diseases. Josie's room in the Duggar house kept exactly as she left it, her journals filled with handwritten prayers and thoughts preserved as a testimony to her journey. One note found on her bedside table read, "Even if the world forgets my story, let someone find strength in their own fight, because I found peace in mine." Today, Josie's story continues to inspire millions. People who heard about her remember her as the little girl who fought from the beginning, never gave up, even when life was unfair. Her death was heartbreaking, but her legacy remains alive through every life she touched. Every sunrise reminds us of her final moments, holding on to love and hope until her very last breath. The Duggar family carry her memory in their hearts forever, and every time they gather around their table, there is always one silent chair reserved for Josie. Because some people leave this world without truly leaving. Josie may have passed away, but her light remains. She was born fragile, yet lived powerfully. She died young, yet left an eternal impact. And in the quiet memories of the family, in every tearful smile, every silent prayer, lives the story of Josie Duggar, the miracle child who became a symbol of courage and love, who watched her final sunrise with peace in her eyes and strength in her heart. Jinger Duggar new baby, Jeremy Vullo, is so excited. The sun had just begun to rise over the quiet Texas neighborhood where Jinger Duggar and her husband, Jeremy Vuolo, lived with their growing family. The morning light came through the nursery window, touching the soft pink curtains that Jinger had chosen herself only weeks ago. But what made this day different, what made it unforgettable, was that today was the day their world changed forever. Today, Jinger was going to welcome a brand new baby into the world. She lay in bed, unable to sleep properly due to excitement and nervous anticipation. Her heart pounded as she rested her hand gently on her belly. Months of waiting, praying, and dreaming had come to this moment. Jeremy, who had barely slept either, stood beside the bedroom window, watching the sky turn crimson. He whispered a quiet prayer of thanks and protection over his wife and their child. At 6:03 a.m., Jinger felt a strong contraction and gasped. Jeremy rushed to her side instantly. "It's time," Jinger whispered with eyes full of tears, not of pain, but overwhelming joy. He nodded, kissed her forehead, and held her hands tightly. They had planned everything carefully. Their hospital bag was ready. The car seat was already installed. Their 2 daughters were staying at a family friend's house for the day. But even with all that preparation, neither of them was emotionally ready for how powerful this moment would be. Jeremy helped her into the car carefully. As they drove toward the hospital, Jinger looked out the window and felt waves of emotion wash over her memories of her childhood, her days growing up in the Duggar family, the lessons she learned, the faith she held onto, and the woman she had become. She remembered how scared she was during her first pregnancy, how much pressure she felt to live up to expectations. But this time, she was strong, secure, and spiritually grounded. She wasn't the little girl from the TLC show anymore. She was a wife, a mother, and today, she was about to become a mother of 3. When they arrived at the hospital, nurses immediately took Jinger to the labor room. Jeremy stayed close to her, holding her hand and encouraging her as contractions grew stronger. "God is with you. I'm here. You're doing amazing," he whispered. Hours passed, and the labor became intense. Jinger winced in pain but remained determined. Jeremy read her verses from the Bible softly, the one she marked during her late-night reflections. Whenever she felt weak, she focused on the sound of his voice. At 1:27 p.m., after one final push and with tears streaming down her face, she heard a sound that would forever be etched into her heart, the beautiful, soft cry of her newborn baby. The room went silent for a moment as the doctor gently placed the baby in her arms. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. Jinger burst into tears of pure joy. Jeremy's eyes widened, and he covered his mouth in disbelief and happiness. He leaned in and kissed Jinger's forehead over and over, unable to stop whispering, "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you." The baby was tiny, peaceful, and wrapped in a soft blanket. Jinger held him against her chest, and in that moment, nothing else in the world mattered. The name they had chosen, the baby's name months earlier, one that symbolized strength, peace, and their belief in faith. Looking at his little face, Jeremy said it aloud. "Welcome to the world, Elijah, bless Vuolo." The nurse smiled. "Beautiful name." Family reaction. Meanwhile, back in Arkansas, the Duggar family was gathered at Jim Bob and Michelle's house. They already knew Jinger was in labor, and everyone was waiting anxiously for the news. Michelle led a prayer circle with the entire family. Even those who were not physically present joined via video call. Jana, Jill, Jessa, Joy, and all the Duggar siblings, everyone was emotional. At exactly 1:45 p.m., Jeremy texted the family group. "He's here. Mom and baby are healthy. Thank you all for your prayers. Meet Elijah, bless Vuolo." Jim Bob stood up instantly and wiped tears from his eyes. Michelle held her hands to her chest and sobbed softly, overwhelmed. "That's our Jinger. I'm so proud of her," Michelle whispered. Jessa grabbed her phone to call immediately. Joy hugged her husband and whispered she did it. Even the little Duggar grandchildren giggled and clapped without fully understanding why all the adults were so emotional. Video call hours later. After some rest, Jinger and Jeremy FaceTimed the whole Duggar family from the hospital room. On the screen, the entire family appeared smiling, crying, full of joy. "Oh my goodness, he's perfect," Michelle said, covering her mouth. Jim Bob nodded with pride. "You two are amazing." "Jinger, "You're so strong." The Duggar siblings were screaming with excitement, each trying to say something but getting cut off by the others. Little kids waved at the screen shouting, "Baby! Baby!" Jinga laughed softly despite exhaustion. "He's peaceful right now, just enjoying Mama's heartbeat." Jeremy brought the camera closer to show Elijah's little face. The entire family fell silent for a moment. It felt sacred. "Welcome to the family, baby Elijah," Jana whispered softly, wiping tears. Jeremy's emotional moment when the call ended. Jeremy remained quiet for a moment. He sat next to Jinger, leaned over, and placed his head gently on her shoulder. "I've seen you as my wife, as the mother of our girls, but today, you showed what real strength looks like." "I'm proud to be your husband," he said softly. Jinger smiled weakly. "We did this together." He shook his head. "No. You did this. And I promise, more than ever, to be the father our kids deserve." They kissed gently, and Jinger felt safe. The first night as night fell over the hospital, the world outside faded away. Nurses dimmed the lights. Elijah slept peacefully in his cot beside Jinger's bed. Jeremy sat in an armchair holding a small notebook where he often wrote prayers and reflections. "Tonight," he wrote, "Dear God, thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for my wife, who shines with your strength. Thank you for our daughters, and now for Elijah bless. May I be a father who teaches love, faith, and kindness. Give me the wisdom to lead our family well. Amen." He closed the notebook and looked at his wife and son, feeling complete. Coming home 2 days later, Jinger was discharged from the hospital. The family had prepared a warm welcome at their home. Balloons filled the doorway. A small banner read, "Welcome home." Baby Elijah, their daughters, ran toward them with excitement. "Mama, baby, can we hold him?" they asked. "Let's be gentle," Jeremy said, smiling. They sat on the couch as their daughters carefully held their baby brother. Jinger watched them, her eyes full of emotion. They giggled and stroked his tiny hands gently. "He's so small," their oldest whispered. "He's perfect," Jinger replied. Final reflection that night, when the house was quiet and the children were asleep, Jinger stood by the window holding Elijah against her chest. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "I used to wonder if I was capable, if I could be the mother I always dreamed of being. But now I know it's not about perfection. It's about love, about showing up every day, no matter how tired, about trusting God's plan even when you don't understand it." Jeremy came from behind and wrapped his arms around her. "You're doing beautifully," he whispered, "and I wouldn't want to do this with anyone else." She smiled and leaned back into him. Their family was complete, not because everything was perfect, but because they were together. They had faith. They had love.